Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Will you please stand and remain standing for our national anthem, sung by Ms. Anna Kristen McCowan, followed by the invocation by the Dr. Paul J. Craven, former minister at First Baptist Church, Charleston, South Carolina. Please come forward. Anna, Christy.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light? Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Let us pray. Eternal God, Creator, Giver of life and the Maker of dreams, as we gather, many thoughts race through our heads and many emotions well up in our hearts. Amidst it all, we pause to give thanks. We are grateful for each and every graduate, for their hard work and determination, for their worthy goals, for the devotion and support of family and friends. We're thankful for the traditions and values of this revered place, its illustrious past and its bright future, where the dignity and potential of every individual is paramount, where the search for truth is encouraged and respected, where freedom tempered by equity is championed. We are thankful for the college's faculty and staff, for our president, the trustees, and every friend. We ask that your strength and blessing work in us a deeper sense of community, first in the college family, and then beyond, without parameters. In thy holy name we pray. Amen.
Thank you so very much. On behalf of the faculty of the College of Charleston, its Board of Trustees, and those of us in the administration, I want to welcome all of you to this very special occasion honoring our 1992 graduates. I'm particularly grateful to be a part of this occasion because I've enjoyed so much my years with these students. Truly, this is a time of rejoicing for all of us. But more importantly, it is a time of recognition because it symbolizes the dedication, the strength of purpose, the discipline, and achievement that these students have brought to their term at the College of Charleston. Just a few short years ago, each of you came to this campus with high hopes and lofty ambitions and a commitment to learn. And with those same attributes and increased knowledge and wisdom that have come to you from the faculty at this institution, you now are ready to begin the pursuit of your chosen field and hopefully in fulfilling your dreams and making significant contributions to society. My sincere wish for each of you, our graduates, is that as you travel the corridors of life, many doors of opportunity will open for you. While this is the Graduates' Day, I've also always felt it's also a family affair. And I know that's a sentiment that these graduates share. It represents the love and patience and in many instances the sacrifice that so many of you in this audience have made to bring us to this time. So on behalf again of the board, the faculty, and the administration, while we honor you, our graduates, I also think it's appropriate that we honor your families, and particularly the mothers on this Mother's Day. I'd like to ask the family members of our graduates to please stand so that our graduates can thank you for all you've contributed to this occasion. This year, a record number of graduating seniors participated in a tradition at the college of donating a senior class gift to the College of Charleston. The class of 1992 raised over $10,000 to contribute a new brick crosswalk on St. Philip Street and George Street to be made of engraved bricks. Each brick will bear on it the name of the seniors who participated in the class gift. Certainly we are grateful for your support of this institution. At this time, I'd like to introduce the platform party, and I'd ask you to please hold your applause until I've called all of their names. Mr. Joe E. Berry, Jr., Chairman of the Board of Trustees. Mr. John F. Clark, Trustee. Mr. William J. Day, Trustee. Ms. Sylvia Harvey, Trustee. Ms. Marie Land, Trustee. Mr. F.C. McMaster, Trustee. Mr. J. Vincent Price, Trustee. Mr. Joel H. Smith, Trustee. Dr. Gordon B. Stein, Trustee. Mr. J. David Watson, Trustee. Ms. Cheryl D. Whipper, Trustee. Dr. Andrew L. Abrams, Acting Dean, Research and Graduate Studies. Dr. David Cohen, Dean of the Library. Dr. Gordon E. Jones, Dean of the School of Science and Mathematics. Dr. Edward C. McGuire, Dean of the School of the Arts. Dr. Susan J. Morrison, Professor, Biology Department. Dr. Martin Perlmutter, Professor, Philosophy Department. Dr. Samuel L. Hines, Jr., Dean of the School of Humanities and Social Sciences. Dr. Howard F. Rudd, Dean of the School of Business and Economics. Dr. Pamela C. Tisdale, Dean of the School of Education. Mr. Kenneth S. Gustafson, President of the Alumni Association. Dr. Sue Summer Kress, Vice President for Enrollment Management. Dr. William A. Lindstrom, Dean of Undergraduate Studies and Faculty Marshal. Ms. Anna Christine McCowan, soloist. Dr. George J. Pothering, Speaker of the Faculty, and Dr. Conrad D. Festa, Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs, Provost. Would we please recognize them? We also have with us four very special and distinguished guests who will receive honorary degrees later in the program, but at this time it's my distinct pleasure to ask them to stand and be recognized. Judge Saul Blott, Jr., Maestro David Stahl, Mr. Henry Yashik, and Dr. Thomas Sutherland. This has been an extraordinary class and it's produced extraordinary leaders. It's been my privilege and my pleasure to work with them through the year. And at this time, I'm pleased to present for remarks on behalf of the graduating class, Ms. Holly Murrow, President of the graduating class, to be followed by Ms. Krista Ellis, President of the Student Government Association. Holly, please come forward.
Kindergarten through college, this glorious day marks not only the culmination of 4 years of college, but of 18 years of school. Yet strangely, the same combination of excitement and anxiety that we felt on the first day of the first grade, we find ourselves feeling now. As we leave the College of Charleston to embark on this new stage in our lives, I have 3 beliefs that I would like to share with you. First, book knowledge is temporary, but the ability to think logically and clearly is something that we have learned and that we'll continue to develop throughout our lives. The real world is not the college environment. We have to choose the direction our lives will take, and we have to be honest with ourselves to stop if we find that we are headed in the wrong direction. There's never failure as long as there is an attempt with honesty and with a willingness to learn. Second, be true to yourself and respect others. The atmosphere of the college campus promotes cohesiveness, yet we too have experienced some friction in trying to get along with one another. As we enter society, it becomes ever more important that our differences be acknowledged, respected, and tolerated if there is ever to be any hope at all for peace. Finally, success is in the eyes of the beholder and in the heart of the individual. Before we leave these hallowed halls of learning, we must inwardly define what we believe is success and reconcile that belief with what others will believe, with what others will think of us. Graduation from college is most certainly a great triumph. I challenge you to build on this success to reach even greater heights. My fellow graduates, experience as much of this world as you possibly can. Seek to understand the diversity that God has created. Gather for yourself wisdom and knowledge in response to all that you encounter. I wish you good luck, and I pray that your lives will be blessed with love, joy, and peace. Thank you.
Ms. Krista Ellis, President of the Student Government Association. Krista.
Thank you, Holly, and thank you, Dr. Lightsey. Edward Rutledge, Thomas Hayward, Arthur Middleton, John Rutledge, Charles Pinckney, and Charles Coatsworth Pinckney. These are 6 of the many names we will hear today. But who are these men? All 6 played an instrumental role in contributing to 2 great institutions, the United States of America and the College of Charleston. The first 3 signed the Declaration of Independence, and the latter 3 signed the Constitution. All 6 were instrumental in founding this college. As I look around today, I can only imagine how proud these men would be if they were able to witness this beautiful ceremony and see what a beautiful institution they helped create. This college was founded in 1770, is the 13th oldest college in the nation, and is the first municipal college in the United States. For almost 200 years, this entire campus consisted of just 3 main buildings, and the student body was just a few hundred. Although major changes have taken place in the last 20 years, this institution's emphasis and dedication to a high-quality liberal arts education has remained. This college has been home of much of our intellectual and emotional growth, as well as a place where we have made many of our friendships, many which will last our whole lives. Over the last few years, our class has witnessed many changes. When I first looked at the college over 4 years ago, the enrollment was about 5,500, and this past year it was 8,700. Last year, we restored our baseball team, and we also became a member of the NCAA Division I, the pinnacle of college athletics. The last few years, we have also witnessed many physical changes of the campus, such as the demolition of the College Lodge, the beautiful, luxurious home to many graduates their freshman year, the construction of St. Philip Street Residence Hall, the new bookstore, and most recently, the additions to the cafeteria. We have also witnessed the remarkable efforts of Dr. Lightsey, who worked diligently with the state legislature to achieve university status. This landmark will affect only the graduate programs, and the undergraduate school will remain the College of Charleston. Along with these changes here on our campus, we have also witnessed historical global events. Of course, we all remember Hurricane Hugo, the monster that interrupted our classes for over a week and made living conditions just unbearable for faculty and students. The unimaginable happened when the Berlin Wall crumbled down and we witnessed the fall of communism. Last year, the Gulf War was not just a remote television event. While several classmates fought in Saudi Arabia, others protested the war right here on campus. These events and changes that have taken place while we have studied at the College of Charleston have been truly historic. Despite these changes, there has been a constant dedication to a high-quality liberal arts education. Of course, elements of education change. For example, we did not take Greek or Latin as did our counterparts in the 18th or 19th century. Instead, in the 1990s, we've taken business administration, marine biology, and computer science. Nevertheless, this institution's high regard for the fundamental values of a liberal arts education, democratic spirit, and respect for intellectual growth are the characteristics that have allowed the College of Charleston to continue to grow and prosper through the years. This determination to uphold tradition and charm is the spirit of the College of Charleston that we have all grown to love. Each one of us came to this school as individuals with special qualities and talents. These talents and special qualities were then shaped further by the institution, and we in turn shaped the college. There will always be a reminder of our class here. On St. Philip Street, we have made our class motto, "Paving the Way to the Future," a literal reality. Many graduates purchased bricks engraved with their names, and these bricks will pave our walk across St. Philip Street. Today is a significant day for us. It symbolizes the dedication and discipline that we have endured over the last 4 years to obtain the wisdom and courage necessary to pursue our chosen careers. As we strive to make significant contributions to society, let us remember the college and repay it as well. For I know as alumni we will cherish the college as much as we have as students. Lastly, I want to thank the members of the student body who have given me the opportunity to represent them and have one of the most wonderful years of my life. I would like to thank the professors who have been our mentors and become our friends as they pushed us that extra mile. I would also like to thank the mothers and fathers, because most of us would not be here today if we had not the love and support of our families and friends over the years. Today, especially our mothers. Happy Mother's Day, Mother. I love you. Finally, to my classmates and my dear friends, thank you for the memories. I will always have a special place in my heart for each of you, and especially the College of Charleston. Thank you.
As Krista just said, no institution of higher learning, college or university, can be what it is without a distinguished and outstanding faculty. This college is truly blessed with one of the greatest that I've ever been associated with. Just yesterday, I was at another institution and met the parent of a young student here who told me a story that I think symbolizes this faculty. He said that in her junior year, his daughter became ill while she was a student at the college and was hospitalized. And her teachers took the time to go to the hospital and work with her, help her to keep current so she didn't fall behind, and so she could graduate. This faculty cares for students, cares for teaching, cares for tradition and knowledge and the spirit of liberal arts. So I would like to recognize the faculty of the College of Charleston who are so much a part of this graduating class. Would the faculty please rise? Today is a special day in the history of the College of Charleston as we recognize our 1992 graduates, and I am especially proud and fortunate, I think, that we have as our speaker their choice, Dr. Thomas M. Sutherland, professor at Colorado State University at an American university in Beirut. We are pleased to have him with us, and it is with great pride that I introduce to you our speaker, a former hostage, and now an honorary degree recipient and alumnus of the College of Charleston, Dr. Thomas M. Sutherland.
Thank you, Mr. President, fellow graduates, members of the platform party, and guests. It is for me indeed a great pleasure as well as an honor to stand here in this beautiful spot. I don't think I've ever seen a more beautiful one in which to hold a graduation ceremony, and to be in this historic location of Charleston and in this very prestigious college, College of Charleston. And indeed, I mean that very sincerely. Very highly respected in other parts of the nation. When I received this invitation, I conferred with the president of the American University of Beirut, Dr. Fred Herter, and told him I had been invited and asked what I should do, because we had many invitations, in fact, to give commencement addresses. And Fred said, by all means go there. Charleston is a wonderful town, and the college is a very nice and prestigious college. Go ahead. So I called Dr. Lightsey and said, we're coming. And I was delighted to visit with him and have enjoyed meeting him and many members of the board and of the faculty since we arrived here. It's my first visit to South Carolina and Jean's first visit to South Carolina, and therefore to Charleston and College of Charleston. And so far it has been wonderful. You realize, of course, that we brought with us a good drench of Colorado sunshine. We have two great things at least in Colorado. One is great skiing, and we would welcome you there any time to boost the tax rolls in Colorado. And the other is plenty of sunshine. To my fellow graduates, I stand here in front of you as one of you. We have a lot in common. We've all put in at least 4 years of hard work. In my case, somewhat different circumstances from yours. You were here in this beautiful location. Mine consisted of chains, total lack of sunshine and fresh air, frequent harassment from unenlightened and indeed misguided young men, third world diet, little exercise, and virtually total deprivation of freedom throughout those full 6.5 years. I have gained an appreciation for real, true friendships, and discovered that in Colorado and indeed in Iowa, I had many more friends than I ever realized. When I heard Frank Vitano introduced as the chairman of the Friends of Tom Sutherland Committee, it was the first notion I had that anybody cared a hoot about little old Tom Sutherland. I had heard lots about Terry Anderson, of course, and Terry Wade and John McCarthy, but when I heard Frank Vitano introduced as the chairman of the Friends of Tom Sutherland, I joked with Anderson and Wade and McCarthy. I said, hey, Vitano's gotten both of my friends together there in Colorado. Turned out there were many more. I gained an appreciation, too, for the worth and the strength of a good marriage and a good family. I never doubted that my wife would be out there strong and true for me, and indeed she was, as it turned out. She was never making a fuss about things to the government, but she was working hard, both behind the scenes on behalf of the hostages and to bring reconciliation with the Shiite group there in Lebanon, where she stayed for the entire 6.5 years, teaching in the Hariri program English as a second language. I can tell you, when I was released and got to Damascus and was put into the care of the American ambassador, we had that conference which CNN covered for the U.S. The ambassador took me back to his house after he had told me that Jean was on her way home to her father's funeral and that she wasn't there in Damascus to meet me. And I was shocked, of course, and stunned. And then later he said, would you like to speak to your wife? And I said, I looked at him in amazement, and I said, how can I? She's flying on her way to Iowa. He said, no, the State Department has her in Newark Airport, New Jersey. Would you like to speak to her? And I said, of course I would. And you know, American technology made it possible. In 30 seconds, he handed the phone to me, and he said, here's your wife. And Jean said, hello, Tom, is that you? And I said, hello, Jean, is that you? And we started out, and it was just as though we had separated in Denver Airport the day before. And we are now, I think, Jean, on our 161st honeymoon since I was released. The strength of that marriage and the support of my family and my friends has, in fact, made it possible for me to enjoy virtual instant re-entry to civilization and the resumption of a daily life. The second lesson I learned is an appreciation for my education. My education, in fact, was the fabric of my survival for all of those 6.5 years. I credit a great deal of that to another fellow Iowa State graduate, Terry Anderson, of whom you've all heard, I'm sure. He and I shared 70 of my 77 months and his 80 months of captivity in the same room. And he vehemently refused to let our minds go foggy or dull or pessimistic. We kept our minds active the entire time, and being reasonably civilized, I hope, and reasonably intelligent young men, I wasn't so young at the time, but he was, we decided that we weren't going to let them get us down, and that we would maintain our minds in a strong and active and positive, healthy attitude toward our captivity, knowing that someday we hope to be back with our families and our friends and back in these great United States. And indeed, we did arrive. Terry's insistence on this and his encyclopedic mind made this possible. At first, I confess that I resented him because his IQ is somewhere between 145 and 150. And he was very tough to deal with. He argued me out of every argument we had initially, and I just couldn't accept that. After all, I was a full professor at one of the most prestigious universities in the entire Middle East, and a dean to boot, and he was a mere journalist. And you know, journalists aren't supposed to be smarter than deans. But I got news for you. Some of them are. And he was. He was an extremely bright guy. But after I reconciled myself to his brightness, his 145 IQ to my 95, I decided that that mind of his was a great resource. And indeed it was. It was like an encyclopedia for us. And we argued and we debated when we had nothing, no books, no Bible, no telephone, of course, no TV, no radio, and that existed long periods of time. We argued and debated from our minds. We frequently didn't have the resource to settle these arguments, unfortunately. We argued, for example, about where are airplane flaps when they go off, and I don't know how we got onto that subject, but we did. And I told him that airplane flaps are down both when a plane takes off and when it lands. He said, nonsense, I agree they're down when it lands, but they've got to be up when it takes off, otherwise how is it ever going to get off the ground? It would turn its nose into the ground and you'd never get off. Well, we argued and argued. I said, look, it's just like a frisbee. When you throw a frisbee up, it's got these curved edges like the wings of the plane, and it helps it to get off the ground. No, he said, nonsense. So we argued and argued for days about that. So when I got on the plane at Frankfurt, Wiesbaden, to come back to San Francisco, I went up to the cockpit and I said to the captain of the crew, Captain, I had an argument with a fellow by the name of Terry Anderson. He said, yeah, I've heard of him. So I told him what our argument was. He said, I'm sorry, you were both wrong. The flaps are down when you land, but when you go off, they're flat. And that has nothing to do with taking off. That's all done in the tail. Well, at least that argument Terry didn't win. We argued about the inheritance of intelligence. We argued about the value of statistics. As a journalist, he had an innate scorn for statistics and the subject of statistics. I taught statistics for a long time, so I had a good appreciation for them. I never could convince him that statistics was a valid and reasonable way to look at data. Well, Terry was a great guy, but I told him a lot of times he was no substitute for a pie-fi. Third lesson. Terry and I developed a community between us. Benjamin Weir, a Presbyterian minister who was also kidnapped, had a community. He called up all the figures in the Bible that he knew about, and he made those his friends while he was in solitude, and they helped him get along very well. Well, I didn't know the Bible that well, early on especially, and so I couldn't do that, but Terry Anderson and I helped each other. We developed a strong bond with one another, and we were able to resolve our arguments and discussions and disagreements in civilized fashion. And I would like to think of that as a microcosm of the world at large. I would like to see wise leaders come forth and develop that same spirit of community, so that despite the fact that you argue and debate and disagree, you can at least come to some kind of a reasonable resolution of your conflicts. And that our international community should begin to wage peace instead of war. And I was very happy to hear one of the students talk to you a moment ago about the need for peace in the world. Look at the Old Testament. All the way from the Old Testament. It works. That's another example of great American technology. Islamic Jihad would have taken 6 months to do that. Reminds me of the White House when we were there. All 6 recently released hostages were there, and they gave Terry Anderson the honor of turning on the lights for the Christmas tree. So Terry very ceremoniously turned the switch and nothing happened. He took it, turned it again, and nothing happened. So President Bush picked it up and shook it a little bit. Joseph Scipio in the background, who was the comptroller of the American University of Beirut before he was kidnapped, said, "Has the electricity bill been paid?" Then the president shook it again and it worked. It took them a longer time, however, than it took the technicians here to fix us up. Thank you indeed. I was talking about the Old Testament. You know, you read all the way in the Old Testament and there's nothing but war and strife. And you'll read from time to time, "And God was on our side that day, and the number of men slain was 60,000 or 40,000. I didn't know there were that many people around in those days in that area, but apparently there were. And they said, "And we slew their women folk and their oxen," and you name it. And strife has been rampant in that area of the world ever since the time of the Old Testament and right up to the days of modern Beirut. And I would like to call on these people to develop a community. In fact, a Middle East economic community, the MEEC, to compete with the EEC. And just think what we could do if we could have Lebanese, who are after all descended from the original Phoenician traders, Palestinians, who are a very talented and dedicated people. When Americans think of a Palestinian, they immediately think of a terrorist. And they're not terrorists. There are a few terrorists among them, but most of them are very much like us, dedicated to education, to working hard, and to peace. And they are the people who have made the Middle East tick, for heaven's sakes, for many, many decades now. And look at the Israelis, the Jews in that region. What a talented people. They've contributed to the world society, to modern society, far, far out of proportion to their numbers in the world. Extremely brilliant, dedicated people, capable. And you know what? The Lebanese and the Palestinians and the Jews are all cousins. They're all Semites. They're kissing cousins. They should be working and cooperating and trading together. And instead of that, what do? They spend their time fighting. And I call for a new paradigm, a new mindset in that region to where people can cooperate and trade. And I think trade would be a good way to help out Secretary Baker's peace initiative there. And after they got these three going, they could bring in Syria and Iraq and Egypt and Saudi Arabia and even Iran and even Turkey, who want to get into the EEC but aren't going to get in very quickly, and so they could come into the MEEC, and then we might have peace. That's tough, you all say. It'll never happen. Let me tell you a little story of a recent trip. Gene and I just got back from Berlin, and we took a tour of the city, and when we stopped in front of the Brandenburg Gate, the guide of our tour said, when Mr. Reagan, President Reagan, stood in front of this gate in 1988 and said, Mr. Gorbachev, open this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. Our guide said not one German in all Germany believed that he would live long enough or she would live long enough to see that happen. And 1 year later, it was a fact. Let's dream in that direction. The fourth lesson concerns risk and responsibility. Gene and I were warned many times to get out of Lebanon. The embassy warned us that it was dangerous. Well, we were there, the university was still operating, students were studying and taking exams, and professors were professing and grading them. The shops were selling stuff in Beirut, and sure, there was an odd kidnapping here or there, but like all of you, I guess, I assumed it wouldn't happen to me. Nothing ever happens to me. Well, turned out we thought we knew better than the embassy, or at least as well, and we decided to stay on and take the risk. Turned out the embassy was right. It was dangerous, and I was kidnapped. So we took the responsibility for that. And our new graduates will have to take risks as well, and learn to take the responsibility for these risks if they fall apart. But you know, America was built by people willing to take risks. Going into the frontier was dangerous, and so Americans have never shirked taking risks. And I'm sure that Americans will continue to travel around the world and accept the risks and take the responsibility for the decisions that they make. I was a little discouraged at a recent survey of high school students which indicated that they were despondent about the future. They felt that the future was not going to be as rosy for them as it had been for their parents. Well, I tell you, I come back to an America that I find to be a dynamic and exciting place. There have been so many things happening in so many areas, particularly in communications and technology and business, but also in the arts. Great things happening here. The BBC rates the regional orchestras in the United States as good as the major European orchestras because there are so many talented musicians in the United States. Far, far more than we need for the 5 great orchestras in the U.S. And the literature, my French colleague that I was chained to the wall with for 3 months, Jean-Paul Kaufmann, a Frenchman no less, said that the literature appearing in the world today, by far the best of it is done by Americans. And now, that's something for a Frenchman to admit that kind of admission. So I say to the graduates, go for it. Don't be afraid of the unknown. I like Teddy Roosevelt's quote from some years ago, where he said, don't be one of these timid souls who knows neither victory nor defeat. And I love that poem by Robert Frost, The Road Not Taken. The last 3 lines of his poem, and it's a beautiful poem, I recommend it to you. The Road Not Taken, he says, 2 roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. The 5th and final lesson, you'll all be happy to know, is that learning is inherent in all experience. And this may sound trite. Everybody says at every commencement, this is but the beginning of your education, and what you've learned in college is but prologue, and so on. It's said in many different ways. Gene and I found that many of those old cliches really do have meaning. Hope springs eternal was one of them that kept us going, believe me. But I do believe that this really is a beginning. You see, I had been educated as a scientist with all the implicit reverence for the scientific method. and its impressive use of modern technology and machines costing millions. And I had all the implicit disdain for the humanities. I thought, these guys just go to the library and read a bunch of books and then write it down in somewhat different words. And I didn't have enough respect for the liberal arts. But you see, I hadn't read very much in a long time. I used to read a lot as a young boy. But when I reached puberty and discovered girls and sports, I gave up reading. And I hadn't read very many books. So when I met up with Terry Anderson and we began to discuss the books that we were reading, he discovered that I knew very little about literature and about books, either the classics or modern novels. And he had read everything. And you know, after a little bit of a discussion, he looked at me and he said, "Gee, you're ignorant." And you know, he was right. I was ignorant in that regard. Well, I discovered later that he was ignorant too in other areas like agriculture, and I had to teach him about farms because he wanted to develop a farm, so I taught him a lot about agriculture. Well, I proceeded to get my liberal education, and as I said, I claim that I've earned it because I worked hard with Terry as my guide and books as my resource. I read actually hundreds of books in captivity. They bought them in the bookstores in West Beirut, where the Westerners were depositing their books as they left and by the drove. They didn't want to carry them home, and these guys would go and buy a big box of books and bring it to us, give us a dozen at a time. And when we were finished with these, we traded them in. They'd give us a dozen more. When the box was all done, they would take them around and give them to the other hostages. And we discovered that all the other hostages that we met, anyway, had read the same books that we had. Then when the box was all read by everybody, they would take them back to the bookstores and trade them back in for a new box. That went on for several years. Well, I read everything from the Federalist Papers to Fannie Hill, from John Adams to John Updike, from Henry James to Barbara Cartland, from John Stuart Mill to Robert Ruark. We read D.H. Lawrence, Thomas Hardy, Victor Hugo, Brontes, John Cheever and Gore Vidal, Haley, Balzac, Shakespeare, the Bible, the Quran, Time Magazine, Fortune, Bizweek, U.S. News and World Report, The Economist, and we even read Solzhenitsyn's The First Circle. Now, I recommend to you Solzhenitsyn's First Circle. It was about a bunch of prisoners who were in a priority prison to try to develop new technology for the government. And if they succeeded, they might get back to see their families again. If they didn't succeed, they might go to the gulags in Siberia. Solzhenitsyn said an interesting thing in there, lots of interesting things, but he said, "Thank God for prison." He was in the gulags himself, you know. He said, "Thank God for prison. It gave me the chance to think." And indeed, it gave me, the captivity that I went through, the chance to think and to discover that the life of the mind really is everything and that it was the key to our survival. I learned also from our guards, believe it or not. They were very interested in the U.S., and some of them would come and say to me privately and quietly in the corner at times, "If you come back to Lebanon, to the American University of Beirut, will you help me get a green card?" One of them came to me and said, "I know your wife." And I said, "Indeed. How do you know her?" He said, "I'm in her class." I said, "Take her a message, would you please?" "Ooh, I'm sorry I don't have the order," he said. But we indeed learned from them. They were, as I said, fascinated by America. They watched many American movies and many American soap operas and you name it, and they were fascinated by life in America. Everybody around the world, it seems to me, is fascinated by these United States. Many of them want to come here. The undisputed #1 country in the world, and you should all be extremely proud of it. But I learned from these young men. I learned about them, about their feelings, their desires, their lives, their grievances, and their aspirations. And I would like to close with a quote from Walt Whitman's Leaves of Grass. Walt said, "Have you learned lessons only of those who admired you and were tender with you and stood aside for you? Have you not learned great lessons from those who reject you and brace themselves against you, or who treat you with contempt or dispute the passage with you. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to suggest humbly to you that I have. May you graduates of 1992 do likewise. And I am truly proud to be one of you, a graduate of the class of 92. Thank you and Godspeed.
Dr. Sutherland, thank you so very much for that extraordinary address. I know it's something that these graduates and all of us will carry with us from now forward. At this time, we will present the candidates for degrees in the graduating class of 1992. I have the honor to ask Mr. Joe E. Berry, Jr., Chairman of the Board of Trustees, representing the state of South Carolina, to join me in presenting the diplomas. Dr. Conrad Festa and Dr. Andrew L. Abrams will also assist with the presentation of the master's degrees. If you would like to take pictures, there's space over here to the right, and the diplomas will be awarded there. Please come around. I would like to ask those who are taking pictures, once your graduate has come across, please make room for others so that they can take the pictures there. We would prefer that instead of up front so that everybody in the audience will be able to see. Dr. Festa.
Upon successful completion of all requirements and with the recommendation of the faculty, I'm honored to present to you the graduates of 1992.
For the degree of Master of Arts in Teaching, Dr. Pam Tisdale, Dean of the School of Education, will invest the hoods. Joining us on stage will be Dr. Robert Fowler, Chairman of the Department of Educational Foundations and Specializations, and Dr. Martha Neighbors, Chair, Department of Early Childhood and Elementary Education. For the Master of Arts in Teaching, Elementary Education, Jennifer LeRae Bryant Brown. Beth Rigby Clark. Carol Jane Ezell. Cynthia Sines Fisk. Thomas L. Owens. Lori A. Tratera. For the Master of Arts in Teaching, Special Education, Michael Richard Hales. George Scott Harmon. Jeanette Battles Hyatt. Thomas Edward Jarecki. Thomas Rowand Robinson II. Marie Selena Sullivan. For the degree of Master of Education, in Early Childhood Education, Geneva Askins. Mary Lynn Boynton. Pamela Lynn Childress. Lillian Frazier DeGuire. Susan Marie Madlinger. Kayla Fernandez Roberts. For the Master of Education in Elementary Education, Sylvia Horace. And for the Master of Education in Special Education, Sheila Renee Alber and Tracy Dye Jelly. Mr. President, I present these graduates for their presentation of their degrees.
Would the graduates please stand? By the authority granted to me by the College of Charleston Board of Trustees, the degree of Master of Arts in Teaching is hereby conferred upon these candidates. Congratulations. Will the candidates for the degree of Master of Education please stand? By the authority granted to me by the College of Charleston Board of Trustees, the degree of Master of Education is hereby conferred upon these candidates. Congratulations.
For the degree of Master of Public Administration, Dr. Samuel M. Hines, Jr., Dean of the School of Humanities and Social Sciences, will invest the hoods. Joining us on stage will be Dr. Arthur A. Feltz, Director of the Master's Program in Public Administration. For the degree of Master of Public Administration, William F. James Anoni, Jr. Sarah Jane Davis. Liselot Leish Thomas.
By the authority granted to me by the College of Charleston Board of Trustees, the degree of Master of Public Administration is hereby conferred upon these candidates. Congratulations.
For the degree of Master of Arts in History, Dr. Samuel M. Hines, Jr., Dean of the School of Humanities and Social Sciences, will invest the hoods. And joining us on stage will be Dr. Malcolm Clark, Director of the History Program. Paul Bailey Mason. And I would add that Mr. Mason is the first recipient of the degree of this new program. So congratulations to him.
By the authority granted to me by the College of Charleston Board of Trustees, the degree of Master of Arts in History is hereby conferred upon this candidate. Congratulations. Assisting with the presentation of the bachelor's degrees will be Dr. Sue Summercrest and Dr. George Potherin.
Presenting the diplomas for the School of the Arts will be Dean Edward C. McGuire. For the bachelor's degree in art history, assisting in the presentation of the diplomas will be Dr. Diane C. Johnson, Chair. Nicole Monique Burwell. Susan Bliss Cosby. Elizabeth Carter Glaze. Mary Holiday Guston. Cornelia Oliver Jones. Sarah Forrest Merriman. Julia Marshall Price. Anna Catherine Roach. Allison Ann Rumrill. Emily Krista Smith. Michael Hilton Swing. For the bachelor's degree in fine arts, Jennifer Marie Devine. William Thomas Meisberger, cum laude. Mary Michelle Moser. For the bachelor's degree in music, assisting in the presentation of the diplomas will be Professor Steve Rosenberg. Loretta Joanne Doer. Gregory Wayne Holton. Robert Patrick Nance. Jana Christine Peterson. Teresa Austin Reeves. Mark Daniel Snow, cum laude. Melissa Ann Thurber. For the bachelor's degree in studio art, assisting in the presentation of the diplomas will be Professor Barbara Duvall. Catherine Parker Brennan. Amy Renee Carter. Francesca Teresa Campagnone. Elizabeth Ann Eady. Catherine Ragsdale Freilich. Melinda Gay Hansen. Heather Catherine Howell. David Linder. Catherine Wills Lynn. Catherine Ann Rooney. Her diploma will be given by her mother, Dr. Martha Rooney, Professor of Biology. Louise Elizabeth Train. For the bachelor's degree in theater, assisting in the presentation of the diplomas will be Professor Alan Landrup. Norman Adelsflugel. Cheryl Ann Bourgeois. Martha Temple Crocker. William Davis. Ashley Paget Griffith. Marguerite Huff. Juanil L. Manning. Christopher Gary Martin. Presenting the diploma for the School of Business and Economics will be Dean Howard Rudd. For the bachelor's degree in accounting, these candidates have also completed all requirements for the degree in business administration. Assisting in the presentation of the diplomas will be Professor Brecky Herring. Danette Lynn Brewer. Ida Melissa Butler. Alice Marie Constine. Lisa Renee Hundnall Dienhofer, cum laude. Elizabeth A. Fields. Rita Stahl Greiner. Wendy Lou Henderson. Siobhan Yvette Jackson. Cindy Elizabeth Pointer, cum laude. Susan Jill Shapiro. Deidre Lorraine Rott. For the bachelor's degree in business administration, Dr. Rudd will be presenting the diplomas. Christopher Scott Abbott. Natalie Yvette Anderson. David Wright Archer. Scarlett Renee Ash. Karen Denise Austin. Ashley Bell Baker. Jan Barrick. Matthew Lawrence Boffman. Kimberly Elaine Bearden. Michael McKinley Beckett. Rachel Elizabeth Biscay. Philippe Paul Blan. Christina G. Bowen, summa cum laude. Gerhard Alfred Bone. His diploma will be presented by his father, Professor Bone, executive in residence in the School of Business and Economics. Kevin F. Bowie. Christopher J. Bauer. Ellie Britton. Martha Grace Buck. Frances Mary Cahill. Earl Dawson Caldwell IV. Kimberly Carol Carter. Magna cum laude. Mark Chadwick Carter. Gregory John Castronova. Hal Couthen. James Randall Sir Copley. Tracy Lane Sir Copley. Doyle Lang Chisholm. Gregory Arthur William Clark. Adonis Kofer. Edna Chandler Coker. Charles Jackson Cook III. Karen Lee Courtney. Jeffrey Eugene Cox. Belinda Renee Croft. Christy Lee Daughtridge. Charles James Day. Noel Arthur Desmarteau. Alan Dennis Dove. Christopher David Dugan. Robert Lamar Durland, Jr. Suzanne Renee Elmer. Amanda Anita Andretti, cum laude. Yancey Calhoun Epps. Cheryl W. Esty. Dennis Irfan Avon. Tracy Jean Ferguson. Aline Jacqueline Fleming. M. Graham Flynn. Sean Patrick Flynn. Amanda Lee Foster. Shannon Marie Foster. Susie Galt, cum laude. Kristen Fox George. Elizabeth R. Gleesman. Catherine Elizabeth Goforth. Quentin Willis Goodwin. Dennis Glover Graham, Jr. Douglas Edward Graham. Betty O'Neill Gross, III. Cynthia Mare Gwynn, magna cum laude. William Lynn Haas, Jr. Julie Ann Hagan, cum laude. Thomas Kelly Hale. Adam Malone Hamilton. Denise Hammond. Janine Munch Hansen. Brooke Diane Hartwell. Harry Thornton Harvin III. Eric S. Hawkins. Jewel Jennifer Hay. Patricia Ann Hazelriggs. Melissa Dawn Heaton. Michael S. Hendershot. Amy Lynn Heil. Frederick Andrew Hernstein. James Michael David Hickmott, magna cum laude. Robert McCoy Natashan. Egeria Ann Hoffman. Mina Alina Hoikala. Dana Lynn Holmes, cum laude. Heather Dawn Howard. Amy Suzanne Hull. Christina Elsa Hersey, cum laude. Michael David Hussey. Jennifer Lynn Hudson. Kevin Franklin Jackson. Catherine Ansley James. Clarence B. Jeffcoat Jr. Laura Suzanne Jennings. John Paul Johnson. Julie M. Jones. Mickey Kawal, summa cum laude. Caroline Elizabeth Key. Christine A. Keeby. Murray Carlisle Kinlaw III. Douglas David Kugley Jr. Janine Marie Lattiser. Kimberly Jean Lathberry. Charles Edward Lee. Colleen Marie Leonard. Michelle I. Lilly. Natalie Lynn Lohman. Kenneth Ian Lutz, cum laude. James Allen McCackern. Maria Stefania McFarland. Glenn David Martin. James Anthony Martin. Richard D. Mashburn. Norman Andrew McClelland. James Donald McManus Jr. Joseph Bernardine Meyer. Presenting the diploma will be his father, Tony Meyer, Director of Alumni Services. He graduates cum laude. Christopher Scott Miramonte. Catherine C. Morris, cum laude. Mark Tremaine Morse. Roy Douglas Neal. Brian Eugene Newman. John Chang Nguyen. Robert Michael Nicolai. Mark A. Owens. Stuart Ira Flug. Michael Christopher Phillips. John Stephen Reeves. M. Joseph Richardson. Glenn Singleton Ritchie. Lisa Renee Rousley. Derek Sean Sanford. Eugene Schweikert. John Charles Shaw. Christine Alice Sherman. Marianne Toro Shoemaker. Julie Ann Sykes. Laura Elizabeth Skelton. Stacy Alden Smith. Horace Mitchell Spivey Jr. Jolynn Swan. Mary Jo Tabor. David Charles Thompson. Carlos Eduardo Farias Tum. Abby Gail Travis. Marcy Vaughn. Charles Glenn Feasy. Denise Cheryl Vaz. Terry Scott Walker. Grace Ann Walton. Shondell Lavette Washington. Teresa Lynn Waters. Julia K. Winterbottom. Courtney Elizabeth Wiseman. For the bachelor's degree in economics, assisting in the presentation of the diplomas will be Dr. J. Michael Morgan and Dr. Howard Rudd. Jack Edward Lorden. Annalisa Graham Amig, cum laude. Charles Christopher Garrity Silcox. William Timothy Smoke. Presenting the diplomas for the School of Education will be Dean Pamela Tisdale. For the bachelor's degree in Educational Foundations and Specializations, assisting in the presentation of the diplomas will be Dr. Robert Fowler. Claudia R. Allen. Aaron Lee Courtney. Shay Alexandra Dukes, cum laude. Karen Lynn Green. Jennifer Harbison, cum laude. Dietrich Michael Jenkins. Dietrich Michelle Jenkins, excuse me. Teresa Lynn Johnson. Natalie Jones. Gina M. King. Misty Lynn Kaiser. Kelly S. Mullaney. Josie Jessup Mays. Kathleen Jean Watson McKenna. Daka Suzanne Michaels, cum laude. Aaron Lois Middlebrooks, cum laude. Angela Denise Pettinger. Kimberly Ann Rast, magna cum laude. Joan Elizabeth Robinson. Colin Duffy Sabia. Leslie Dana Shipman. Alicia E. Strickland. Brenda Lynn Taylor. Cammie Caroline Wolf. For the bachelor's degree in elementary education, assisting in the presentation of the diplomas will be Dr. Martha Neighbors. Victoria Marie Amsbury. Amy Marie Atkinson. Virginia L. Badgett. Janie Rebecca Baines, cum laude. David S. Batty. His diploma will be presented by his wife, Dr. Carol Torres, Professor of Psychology. Christy Lee Beckett. Deborah Ruth Benmaman. Presenting her diploma will be her mother, Virginia Benmaman, Professor of Spanish, and she graduates cum laude. Dawn Marie Bennett. Lynn Franklin Benton. Heather Dennison Bridges. Heather Lee Broadwell. Heather Lynn Brockington. Cheryl Elaine Brown. Patricia S. Brown, summa cum laude. Tracy Lane Bryant. Georgia Ann Cannon, cum laude. Christy Hazel Capps. Margaret Mary Carmody, cum laude. Carolyn June Carton. Cheryl Jean Cobb. Jacqueline Renee Corson. Dr. Frances Corson, Professor of Education, will present the diploma to her daughter. Amber Lynn Craven. Lisa Ann Cronin. Joanne Aldridge Decasauce. Paula Diane Fay, magna cum laude. Lisa Michelle Fields. Jane Ladere Flynn. Krista Marie Friedner. Lisa Michelle Gaillard. Susan Wilder Gamble. Kathleen Gadsden Causey. Joanne Carolyn Garris, magna cum laude. Christine Elaine Groves. Sarah Ann Guston. Karen Joanna Harrington. Christina Louise Hayden. Jennifer Elaine Heatley. Melissa Ann Hayner. Donna Elaine Hudson. Christine Marie Ingracia. Cindy Diane Jackson. Tracy Suzanne Jennings. Denise Lena Johnson. Yvette Diane Johnson. Carolyn Yvonne Keller. Alice Saklakis Kellum, cum laude. Janie Elizabeth King. Jacqueline M. Cornetti. Charlotte Suzanne Lemon. Charity Lynn Lewis. Lee Ann Lomas. Michelle McClendon Long. Beverly Estelle McCall. Amanda Elizabeth McDaniel. Patricia Ruth McGinnis. Rachel Lynn McKinney. Shannon Lee McQuay. Sandra Marie Milliken. Sonia Lee Moon. Carl Dean Mullinax Jr. Susan Lynn Murray. Alexon K. Nadrasi. Heidi Ann Papke. Verisa Dawn Parker. Frances Dare Ridgel. Lisa Rooney. Robin Lee Sanders. Ashley Elizabeth Sawyer. Dia Mare Cheryl, magna cum laude. Veronica Delcita Singleton. Ashley Rutledge Skipper. Deborah Clouston Smith, magna cum laude. Laura Beth Smith. Tammy Marie Smith. Brenda Joanne Taylor. Melanie Carol Thompson, magna cum laude. Jolene Marie Elizabeth Tomihiro. Elizabeth Coker Turner. Julie K. Turner. Bonnie Lee Van Patten. Angela K. Bradford Wade. Amy Suzanne Wells. Dawn Marie Wilson. Susan Rebecca Witchen. Cherie Meisel Zerbst. For the bachelor's degree in physical education and health, assisting in the presentation of the diplomas will be Dr. Andrew Lewis. Deborah Diane Klein. Heather Page Coble. Rebecca Ann George. Reuben Derek Gilmer. Michelle Denise Groves, magna cum laude. Lisa Michelle Pickett. Cynthia Ann Pittman. Catherine Gardner Rudert. William Lee Runyon III. Craig Stephen Tangeman. Kathy Lynn Welch.
Presenting the diplomas for the School of Humanities and Social Sciences will be Dr. Sam M. Hines, Jr. For the bachelor's degree in anthropology, assisting in the presentation of the diplomas will be Dr. George Dickinson. Cara Ann Allaire. Carol Ann Bain. Alvin Jerome Bangalin. Joseph John Biondi. He has also completed the requirements for a degree in philosophy. Ernest Everett Blevins. Erica Lenice Burrows. Leanne Elizabeth Cruz. Jennifer Ann Harden. Thomas Christopher Kirby. Todd Kevin Matson. Kimberly Sue Peiska. John Thomas Rutland IV. Peter A. Von Lowe. Samuel R. Wilson. For the bachelor's degree in English, assisting in the presentation of the diplomas will be Dr. Nan Morrison. Karen Charlotte Addy. James Gregory All. Stephen Edward Anderson. Colleen Marie Berrigan. Lori Tanya Baumgardner. Scarlett Patrice Canty. Heidi Roxana Campbell. Heather Elaine Carlson. Louise Frampton Freeman Dargan. Elizabeth Ann Davis. Daniel James Ennis. Emmeline Rebecca Flint. Amy Elizabeth Forloins. Karen Virginia Gallagher. Ray Ellen Greenberg. She has also completed requirements for a degree in philosophy. Ashley Lynn Hudson. Robin Michelle Hutto. Mary Frances Jones. Tracy Elizabeth Jones. Suzanne Alexandra Marshall. Megan Elizabeth McKee. Frank Bailey Middleton. Renee Victoria Murray. Tanya Michelle Nelson. Carolyn Elizabeth Newman. Jada Rebecca Owen. Mary Agnes Page. Paige Elizabeth Payne. Dana Lynn Pumphrey. Joyce Lou Ray. Claire Elizabeth Roberts. Catherine Louise Ruth. John Brace Ryan. Rachel Amanda Seacrest. Angela Renee Shores. Amy Leal Saylor. Joanne Snedden. Jody Lee Stallings. Leanne Christine Terry. Frances Caroline Tisdale. For the bachelor's degree in French, assisting in the presentation of the diplomas will be Dr. Michael Pincus. Sonia Keolani Borowski. Patricia Michelle Arlant Crichton. Kathleen Evans Dew. Elizabeth Laird Pelzer. Teresa Miranda Knight. Jacqueline Rebecca Lloyd. Jennifer Alice Walter. We have now the bachelor's degree in German. Again, assisting will be Dr. Michael Pincus. Manuela Stotz. For the bachelor's degree in history, assisting in the presentation of the diplomas will be Dr. Malcolm Clark. Patricia Green Baxter. Laura Nan Bradham. Dawn Marie Brock. Michael Edwin Brown. Scott James Allen Buchanan. Ray O'Brien Carter, Jr. Barrett Alden Catterton. Molly Elizabeth Chastain. Amanda Meredith Dunn. Robert David Freeman, Jr. Sally Sue Fisher. David A. Hendricks. Andrea Elaine Hodges. Kelly Ann Jones. Kimberly Ann Jones. Matthew J. Capel. Virginia Towell McNair. Ronald N. Lacey, Jr. Robert Douglas Mellard. Walter D. Moorer. Jack Howard Petit. Christy Lane Price. Wanda L. Ray. John Travis Rhodes, Jr. K. Scott Sane. Christy Ann Sanders. Paul F. Spence. Julia Victoria Staples. Susan Karen Stonestreet. Paul Brian Strickland. Walter Kenneth Swing, Jr. Frank Vance Thompson, cum laude. Edward Lawson Timmerman. Henry Evans Townsend IV. Felicia Melanie Washington. George Thomas Whitehurst. Kevin Gordon Williams. Claire Marie Young. For the bachelor's degree in philosophy, assisting in the presentation of the diplomas will be Dr. Hugh Wilder. J. Michael Cipolla. Bonnie Christian Cochran. Scott Harold Crabtree. Michael Matthew Dempsey. Pamela Lynn Farrell. Sherry Lynn Goss. Michael Todd Harrop. Todd Edward Johnson. Craig Stephen Kirchner. Catherine Elaine Lewis. Jeffrey Randall Quinn. Bacchus Omar Jude Roll. Dorothy A. Wilson. For the bachelor's degree in political science, assisting in the presentation of the diplomas will be Dr. William Moore. Cynthia Lee Allen. David Brett Andrews. John Avery Atkinson. Kelly Nicole Attaway. For our next candidate, her stepfather will be presenting the diploma. It's Dr. Thomas Langley of the Physical Education Department. Barbara Lee Barnett. Okay. Johnny Warren Baxley III. Travis Corker Bowles. Tanya Larice Braley, Scott Edwards Buck. Terrence O'Donnell Brunner. Chester Charles Burley IV. Harold Glenn Caldwell Jr. Nicole Tracy Canavan. Charles Hilliard Collins. Colleen Therese Condon. Jessica Shovett Davis. Shauna Renee Davis. Teresa Renee Davis. Stephen Lawrence Donald. Paula Lawback Durston. Christina Adair Ellis. Hillary Nancy Fallon. Wendy Andre Finkley. Presenting the diploma to our next candidate will be his father, Dr. Eric Forsberg, Director of Internal Auditing. Anthony Edward Forsberg. Angela Denise Graham. Nelson Blair Hendricks. Jonathan Stephen Hayward. Deborah Jean Hill. Margaret Ann Jacoby. James Matthew Jeter. Timothy S. Jones. Marisa Lee Joy. Christy Michelle Judy. Ann Braden Kuhlman. Victor R. Kulik. Andrew Brian Law. Kristen Carr Lawson. Christopher Robert Lazurick. Jennifer Lynn Leach. Sean Kelly Livingston. John Carlisle Lubkin. Neil Anthony McCauley. Hugh Cameron Andrew McLean. Susan Ann Martin. Tricia Dorothy Martin. Eva Marlene McClure. Peter G. M. Manitas II. Howard Venning Morrison Jr. Elizabeth Ann Murphy. Sherry Lynn Nooney. John Joseph Nickerson. William Anthony Parker Jr. Robert E. Philbeck IV. Lee Andrew Richards. Lori Ann Riley. Christine Marie Risher. Jonathan Charles Rotter. Janiel C. Russ. John David Christopher Rutenberg. James Michael Sabo. James David Scarborough. Jean Marie Schneider. Kelly Suzanne Shull. Regina Nanette Skinner. Douglas Bowen Smith. John Ruggles Holbrook Smith. Kevin Michelle Smith. Stephanie Michelle Smith. Trudy Nicole Snipes. Devin Crawford Steele. Melissa Landstrom Stevens. Caroline N. Stogdill. David Stokes. Julie Teal. Foy C. Thompson. June L. Twitty. Gladys Krieger Washington. Maria Yvette Williams. Julie Elizabeth Zack. For the bachelor's degree in psychology, assisting in the presentation of the diplomas will be Professor William Bischoff. Donald Alderman. Robin Danae Arbina. Richard Dinwiddie Arnold III. Christina Loren Bouchard. Daryl Fitzgerald Bowen. Michelle Sue Bowers. Teresa Renee Brothers. Louisa Pilar Camacho. Kimberly Alice Campbell. Barbara Ann Carson. Patrick James Casano. Tina Nicole Caston. Cynthia Danielle Clausen. Deborah Farrell Coleman. Lisa Ann Cordray. Elizabeth Douglas Curry. Catherine Michelle Davis. Kevin Wayne Dixon. Melanie Marie Duncan. Jamie Lee Elliott. Susan Eleanor Ferbert. Deborah Jean Fisher. Susan Chapman Fitch. Audrian Forsyth. Sydney Lynn Geisinger. Harry L. Golden Jr. Miriam McCone Hamby. Margaret Elliott Hain. Lucia Ellen Hayes. Frank Frederick Hayes. Kristen Burnett Heidecker. Milton Eugene Hyatt. Anne Catherine Hodges. Jacqueline Daisy Howell. Garland Lee Hughes Jr. Cynthia J. Ignacio. Lynn Gale Jaffe. James Caldwell Johnson. Elizabeth Grant Johnston. Sherry Lynn Kemmerer. Meredith Amy Kerr. John Lawrence Clem. Lori Suzanne Koval. Margaret Ingeborg Krotke, excuse me. Perry Leonard Kyle. Our next recipient will receive her degree from her mother, Mrs. Marie Land, who's a member of the Board of Trustees. Frances Rissy Land. Blair Stewart Lieburn. Julia Louise Levine. Stephen Gary Marshall. Robert G. Mathis, Jr. Mitchell Costin McDowell. Maxine Walker McLeod. Amanda Catherine Mitchell. Lisa Michelle Mitchell. Lori Lee Moxley. Lionel D. Nycastle. Ruth Emily Norman. Candace Michelle Pendarvis. Leslie Carol Perry. Candace Jean Pickard. Jennifer Nina Rivlin. Melissa Dawn Roberts. Lyle Adele Roddy. Diana Lynn Root. Ann Patrick Rosenblum. Jennifer Legree Sasser. Karen Elaine Siegfried. Durston Shields Snyder. Don Scott Snazaski. Stephanie Jo Spruill. Julie Renee Swift. Constance E. Swigert. Melissa Sidney Tart. Carolyn Reed Thompson. Adriana Svogia Virarji Toom. Catherine Elise Walker. Kimberly Carol Walsh Root. Barry Michelle Wiener. Tammy Paulette Westberg. Elizabeth Michelle Wetmore. Kim Denise Wheeler. Melanie Louise Whalen. H. Kellner Wilson IV. Christopher Craig Wyndham. Angela Marie Wright. For the bachelor's degree in sociology, assisting in the presentation of the diplomas will be Dr. George Dickinson. Stephanie Elizabeth Adam. Karen Lynn Apperson. Wallace Whitmer Bell. Michelle Anita Bessinger. Celeste Morrow Bridgers. Robert Frederick Brockman. John Nelson Coleman. Lori Ann Daniel. Lou Ellen M. Ames. Catherine Ann Falls. Edmund Arunas Getritis. Audrey DeQuanda Gore. Suzanne Foster Haggins. Catherine Ann Hargett. Tanya Venice Hickson. Carol Lynette Hudson. Jane Catherine Humphrey. Joni Marie Hunter. Ronald Wayne Jenkins Sr. Sharon Ann Johnson. Jennifer Lee Mobley. Ann Stewart Morrison. Catherine Elizabeth Orell. Jennifer Susan Posner. Rachel Ann Rogers. Courtney LeClaire Sklars. Kelsey Kathleen Smith. Julie Anna Spiesel. Lisa Ellen Sprinkle. Julie Ann Stewart. Catherine O'Connor Teague. Robert Roland Vinson Jr. Dorothy Hunt Wilson. For the bachelor's degree in Spanish, assisting in the presentation of the diplomas will be Dr. Michael Pincus. Maria Valerie Benoit. Summa cum laude. Tamala Lee Canali. Gaetan Durand. Lawrence Joseph Green. William Martin Hope Jr. David Brendan McSweeney. Shane Marie Whitaker. Leslie M. Wilson. Next degree candidates will be for the bachelor's degree in urban studies. Helen Edith Hollowell. Bridget Elizabeth Liddy. Now presenting the degrees in the School of Science and Mathematics, Dr. Gordon Jones. Assisting in the for the bachelor's degree in biochemistry, assisting in the presentation of the diplomas will be Dr. Henry Donato. Carmen Lee Alverson. Trina Ann Dalton. Gladys Allison Gibbs. Rauf Elias Hilal. Sally Brown Huguenin. Brad Patrick Jackson. Stuart McAlpin Knepp. Timothy Eugene McDaniel. Allison Burley Sanders. Rachel Lake Setzler, cum laude. Chung Hyun For the bachelor's degree in biology, assisting in the presentation of the diplomas will be Dr. Louis Burnett. Joseph Paul Amundsen. Shannon K. Barber. Michelle Sample Bowman. Kelly Ann Cameron Brandon. Amy Lynn Brum. Amber Michelle Caldwell. Anita Naomi Campbell, magna cum laude. Shannon Lee Cantor. Barbara Ann Chapman, cum laude. Troy Michael Danko. Janet Elizabeth Dye. Fonda Dodd. John Armand Emmerich. Eric Lee Finley. Kristen Marie Foster. Leslie Faye Gowan. Kimberly Ann Greeno. Christopher Emil Haberman. Diane Susan Hall. Yvonne Michelle Hammis, cum laude. Dana Lorraine Harris, magna cum laude. Mary Christian Hobby. James B. Holmes, Jr. Dawn Renee Hudson. Martin D. Katz. Amy Middleton King. Mary Amelia Kuntz. Lawrence Maris Ledford. Joseph Kirby Lintz. Gordon Lindsay Luke III. Next, we'll have mother Priscilla Massenberg and daughter Angela E. Pritchard receiving their diplomas together. Brian Lanier Madison. Lamipa Denise Madison. Christina Harmon McElhaney. Karen Denise McAloney. Brody Edens McCoy, magna cum laude. Nilu McLean, cum laude. Paula Gwynn Merriman. Monica Latrice Miller, cum laude. Caroline Stewart Mintz. Alexander McLean Moore, Jr. Holly Patterson Merle. Summa cum laude, excuse me. Tracy Michelle Newby. Robert Allen Pepe II. Darren J. Rice. Catherine Page Riley. Patrick Cyril Ryan, cum laude. Tara Leslie Sanford. Clarita Gintu Santos. Angela Grace Sellers. Jeffrey Koss Shields. Anu Sood. Alicia Gay Spence. Kirsten Noreen Spillane. Kimberly Nicole Tambini. Linda Marie Tangeman, cum laude. Thomas Britt Taylor. Elizabeth Lane Trzynski. Eric Bentley Varn. Amba Eva Vaught. Jean Frampton Welsh. Britton Elizabeth Westendorf. Cynthia Gail Young. Michelle Tanganko Zapanta. For the bachelor's degree in chemistry, assisting in the presentation of the diplomas will be Dr. Henry Donato. Margaret Ann Hines, magna cum laude. Camille Mary Cassis, summa cum laude. Angel L. Collins. Christopher Blanchard Linder. Michael Allen Stebbins. Ted Lee Williams, cum laude. Delilah Christine Yondel. Next, we'll have the bachelor's degrees in computer science. James Adams. Melanie J. Giggleman. For the bachelor's degree in geology, assisting in the presentation of the diplomas will be Dr. Michael Katuna. Charles Grant Blackburn, cum laude. Eric Francis Cathcart. Michael Joseph Doran III. David Jefferson Hiker. Timothy Robert Hornosky. Angela Sowers Lester. Bradley Scott Schmall. Justine Michelle Shrimp. For the bachelor's degree in mathematics, assisting in the presentation of the diplomas will be Dr. William Golightly. Ethan M. Baldwin. Ronald Jefferson Beard. Dorothea Marie Broom, magna cum laude. Marcus K. Chung, cum laude. He's also completed a degree in business administration. Douglas Miles Danner. Cheryl Dillon. Kimberly Patrice Drakeford. Tina Michelle Flint. Odette Trevor Four. Rachel Georgette. Delilah Kira Kristen Green. Laura Ann Harris. Leslie Ann Milson. For the bachelor's degree in marine biology, assisting in the presentation of the diplomas will be Dr. Louis Burnett. Christopher Allen Bain. Mary Carol Baker. Matthew L. Krasowski. Rebecca Estella Lovett, magna cum laude. Bradley Frank Mann. Timothy J. Roop. Robert Carl Wiggers. For the bachelor's degree in physics, assisting in the presentation of the diplomas will be Dr. William Kubinek. David Coxwell. Kimberly Joan Deal. Amy Elizabeth Krieger. Okay. Our next candidate will have her diploma given to her by her husband, Dr. William Kubinek. Angela J. Kubinek, cum laude. Okay, just announce it. I would also like to announce that Susan Ann Martin had graduated magna cum laude.
I'd like to ask all of the candidates for the bachelor's degrees to please rise. Would all the candidates please rise? By the authority granted to me by the College of Charleston Board of Trustees, the degree of Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Science as earned is hereby conferred upon these candidates. Congratulations, congratulations. At this time, I would like to announce the first honor graduate from the graduating class of 1992. Actually, we had 3 students who had a perfect 4.0 during their career at the college. Tamala Canali, Andrea R. Kellner, and Patricia Sue Brown. Our custom at the college is to choose as the first honor graduate the student who'd had the most hours completed while a student at the College of Charleston. So I present to you Patricia Sue Brown, first honor graduate of the class of 1992. Patricia. Thank you. Class can be seated, and I'd like to ask the 2 recipients of the Art Baccalaureate of Arts degree to please stand. Ladies and gentlemen, the degree Artium Baccalaureatus is a classical degree still awarded by the College of Charleston, one of the few in the nation, and recognizes accomplishment in study in Latin, Greek, and the classics. It's customary for the audience to please rise while the 2 candidates stand to receive this degree. Curatoribus auctoritatem tribuenibus hos juvenes in humanioribus literi praeclare eruditas ad gradum Artium Baccalaureatus admissi. Congratulations. Thank you very much. Please be seated. I want to presume just 1 second to say a few words to this class, since all of them have meant so much to me. This graduation symbolizes everything that I think is good about the college. The fine education you've received, and the good friends you've made, and the truth and beauty to which you've been exposed. I know that when the day is over, all of you, our graduates, have places to go and things to do, but I really hope you won't forget your experiences at the college too quickly. Later, you will come to know that a college writes her highest degree upon the souls of her sons and daughters. A year from now, today will be, at best, just a small memento of the happy days you spent together here at the college, like a faded flower pressed between the pages of a book for the sake of sentiment. But if you live a long, long time, and if you remember that this faculty and this college have taught you to hold honesty of purpose above heaviness of purse, and to treasure ideals more than raw ambition, and to turn aside without ostentation to help others, and to pursue no man to his undeserved hurt, and no woman to her tears, and to love noble beauty. And if through all those years you respect your friends and your family and your husbands, your wives, your children, and your fellow human beings and all the creations of God, and if you keep your sense of humor, if you live a long, long time and keep the faith in all those things, day by day and hour by hour, you will come to believe, as I do, that the sun gilds your path with real gold, and the moon and the stars float in silver. And then I promise you, you'll remember the stippled shadows of this campus, and the majesty of its colonnades, and the dreams of your days here at the college. And you may say in reverence and thankfulness, on Mother's Day in 1992, I graduated from the College of Charleston. Congratulations to you all. I would like to announce immediately following the ceremony that the Zeta Gamma chapter of Chi Omega cordially invites all of you to attend a reception for the graduates in the Cistern Student Center Garden, which is this building across over here. I would like to ask the audience to please remain in place until the recessional is complete. And our new alums and their family are requested to meet each other outside the Porter's Lodge so we won't have so much congestion there.